Okay, so what we're going to do is talk to you a little bit about RMI and its past, present, and future, what's going to happen. And I'm going to ask for a 2-second break to allow people to go and fill up with more coffee or whatever the case with, maybe a washroom break or something like that. So I will be back in about 2 minutes. So stand by and we'll continue the rest of the meeting. Okay, thank you.
Congratulations, Lou and Rusty, for standing.
Break time, Barbie. Do you know where the bong is?
Congratulations on the membership in general. You people are a good bunch of amateurs, and it shows when people stand up to take their place. Rusty, I will ask you a question. Why do I get this R on my blank when I blank my video screen? Any reason?
Rusty's not there right now.
Okay.
The R is there because it's the first letter of your name, Robert.
Okay. And other people's sign, ham radio call comes up. Mine does not.
Yeah, you're cool. No, okay, I got you. When your picture's there, your name's there, Bob. But other than that, it's just a big R.
Mysterious. Thank you. I'll work on it.
Congrats there, Lou. And well, Rusty will catch him later. You guys have been a real help to me. Between the boss man, Al, and Rusty, they've helped me an awful lot. Thanks.
You helped a lot of people too, lady. You're much admired. I've been around Dontars quite a while. I do a lot more listening than I do talking.
Thanks, Bob.
And congratulations, Maureen, on your CW contacts. Excellent job.
Hey, I did it. Oh, was my hand shaking? I think I rattled the key a few times because I'm using the straight key, eh? And that's the way it goes. But I can send quicker than I can receive. I got to really perk up on my receiving, but I'm still doing pretty good, I think.
Okay, well, I'm back. I'm give it another 30 seconds or so and just see if other people are returning. I see a lot of cameras. Always good to have a little break there, and I was getting pretty dry with the yakking that I'm doing. So, all right. So maybe I'll get started then, and as people come back in, they'll be there. All right, so one of the biggest things in regards to our club, and I've mentioned this before, is the Manitoulin Amateur Radio Club is a very unique club in itself. As you can see here, this is the logo of our club in itself, and it's the silhouette of Manitoulin Island. So if you look at the east to west circumference of the island itself, we're about 120 miles long. It takes about 2 hours to drive from the east end of Manitoulin to the west end of Manitoulin, and north to south about 70 miles. It's about 45-minute or so, close to an hour, depending on your speed limit. And it encompasses a lot of area. But we also have the surrounding area of Manitoulin, which is the North Shore and surrounding area in relation to that. Now, putting a radio club together, if you live in a big urban center, you usually have a radio club. Like, it didn't make sense to have a Little Current amateur radio club and a Gore Bay amateur radio club and a Mindamoya amateur radio club. And that because, I mean, each community is only about 1,500 to 1,000 people large. So when we established the club, we looked at the whole island and outside. And one of the main things that we did was that, okay, we're kind of unique, so we don't have meetings every month, because to try and drive from Gore Bay to Little Current, or Little Current to South Bay Mouth, or wherever on the island in the middle of February during a snowstorm for a club meeting just doesn't make sense. So we had our breakfast get-togethers, and we really didn't have, except for maybe a spring and fall, and of course our annual general meeting, which is usually in the spring, to bring the membership together when the weather was good. So having said that, how do we keep a club together if you don't meet? Well, a repeater. And that was chosen way before the advent of Zoom or that. A repeater is very critical because it keeps club members together and in contact for the range that the actual repeater can do. And we were very lucky to establish the location on the CBC tower. So let me go through and explain why we're kind of unique as a radio club in relation to that. So let me go ahead and show you. So the VE3RMI repeater, it was installed back in April of 1988 when the club was first formed. One of the things that the founding members, which I was one of the 4 of, unfortunately the other 3 are silent keys now, but we wanted to get a repeater to keep the club together. We looked at a location, and the CBC tower in Howland Township just outside of Little Current was available. So we approached them. They said, absolutely, we'd love to have you aboard. And thus we had location. 1,300 feet above the water level, not actually the sea level, but above the water level here on Manitoulin. The original frequency we picked was 147.880 minus, which goes against all the band plan activities, because I, as a new amateur, didn't bother reading the regulations too well. All right. And what happened was when Charlevoix, Michigan put up a repeater on 147.280, we had a constant loop, and we eventually changed to 147.270 with a positive split. Our first repeater was a Hamtronics. I don't know if any of you remember Hamtronics as a company. They made a 20-watt repeater. It was crystal controlled. And we looked at a Wacom WP639 4-cavity duplexer. We still have it in the club today. It's a backup duplexer for RMI, but the isolation isn't the greatest on it. We looked and we got a Cushcraft 4-dipole array antenna, not a commercial grade, but a ham radio 4-dipole antenna. And putting it up 300 feet on RMI, it didn't last very long on a commercial tower with the ice and snow and wind, etc. And we used 250 feet of donated old OPP Andrews LD458 Helix cable, which was already up on their towers some 30 years previous. So, but it was free. And we as a new club didn't have any money to spend. So what we did was, that was up in 1988, and that system ran for the first 5 years, and we didn't know what a good repeater was. Was the first RMI generation a good repeater? It was okay. We could make contacts. I mean, if you could get to Espanola on it, you were doing good. If you could get it from Gore Bay, you were doing okay, and that with it. And in between, you would get dropouts, and you couldn't work it in West Bay along the corridor, Chiging there at all. It wasn't very good. So as a club at that time, we looked at updating. In 1993, an amateur by the name of Dwayne V3NHP came to me. I made acquaintance with him in Sudbury. He was a technician, and he said, what type of antenna are you running? And when I told him a 4-bay Cushcraft, he looked at me and says, you got to be kidding. I said, no, absolutely. So he said, listen, get yourselves a Sinclair 210C4. It's going to last you 20 years and you're not going to have a problem with it. So it was $1,500 at the time, and the club didn't have much, but we did a bit of fundraising. We were able to obtain that. We looked at upgrading the repeater at the time. We looked at a Kendacom 30-watt repeater. So we were going up from 20 watts to 30 watts, which we thought was good. And we were looking at a Kendacom PA100 amplifier to amplify it. And he said, you put that amplifier on that new antenna, and he said, you will be amazed at the difference. So we also purchased a 7K controller with the auto patch capabilities at that time. And it was to provide extra coverage, and it did. We put that system up, and oh my God, what a difference. Like we had a brand new repeater, like it's working today. It worked well. This is the picture. If anybody has ever been to the CBC site, we're very lucky. This is up on Greenbush Road, up on McLean, or not, past McLean's Mountain, on one of the highest spots, if not the highest spot on Manitoulin Island. CBC did an extensive study, and this is what runs their 97.5 FM CBC signal. Also, for those that are listeners to the Moose FM, they also have their transmitter on this site too. It's a 500-foot commercial tower where you can climb the ladder inside the tower. Very heavy duty. And if you can follow my cursor, RMI's antenna is around the 250-foot mark, or roughly halfway up the tower, right around this area here, which unfortunately all this was taken up here and we couldn't. Could you imagine us being up 500 feet? But with 250 feet, we were doing quite well. And of course, we were higher than any other location. So if you take a look at the old antenna that we had, it was called the Sinclair 210C4 commercial grade 4-bay antenna with approximately 8.5, 9 dB gain. It's on the north west corner of the tower leg. We could only put it off one tower leg, but it's pointing from Manitoulin, pointing in the Elliott Lake area with that. And that was put up in 1993. Well, as most of you know, we started having issues with it within the last 5 years. We were getting pretty noisy, crackling, all kinds of noise occurring on it, and eventually we replaced the repeater. We replaced duplexers to see if we could fix the problem. In the CBC building, we're in a nice secured building, which is constant air control, 72 degrees Fahrenheit, whether it's in the middle of February or the middle of January or July with heat. We were able to obtain a Motorola cabinet, professional looking cabinet with the repeater, and the first Kendacom repeater looked like this when you opened the door. It was a Kendacom crystal controlled, so only one channel. We couldn't flip channels unless ordering new crystals for it. We had the 100-watt amplifier that was connected to it. We had the SCOM 7K controller, and that's the device there that does all your announcements. Hello and welcome to the VE3RMI repeater. Does your time stamping, all your beeps and boops and whistles and bugles going off to net announcements and everything else that it does. Excellent controller. In this wooden box, we had a 12-volt battery. And then down below at the bottom of the cabinet, we had our Wacom duplexers. And we had a filter can that went in it to help those duplexers because they weren't that great in isolation. But this system worked from 1993 for at least a decade and did good job with that commercial antenna and running about 70 or 80 watts out of the amplifier. RMI was a gangbuster. It covered areas like it's covering today. It was just amazing. People in Sudbury, Elliott Lake, Blind River, all over could access it, and base stations from Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan, down the Bruce Peninsula were able to key up the repeater in itself. Little close-up picture of the old repeater, and we still have that in storage today should something happen that we have to replace it or whatever. It's an older concept, but I mean the repeater, you know, works good. We'd probably have to have an overhaul, see if capacitors or other caps or something have dried out or swelled, but we have a look at it. And the amplifiers, unfortunately, they weren't really well built. We tried to repair it, Rusty and I, and we didn't have much luck with it. So then we decided to update in November of 2013. So literally 20 years later, okay, from 1993 to 2013, we looked at putting a new repeater in. And we purchased an ICOM IC-FR 5000 digital and FM repeater. Now you're sitting there and thinking, you have a digital FM repeater at RMI? Exactly. This is the repeater that we're operating right now on. So when you check into RMI on the morning roundtables or the net this morning, you're talking on this IC-FR 5000. But the digital is commercial. It's known as IDAS and NXDN, which is Next Edge, and the IDAS is ICOM. Those two digital commercial companies got together, went into bed together, and it doesn't matter if you have a Kenwood, excuse me, Kenwood or an ICOM digital radio, you can access it in digital. But here's the problem. The problem that we have is that this is a commercial digital. It's like P25, okay? NXDN and IDAS is used by the commercial. There are no amateur manufacturers that make amateur equipment that operate on those digital bands. So what ends up happening is that you have to buy a commercial radio, whether it's a commercial mobile radio or a commercial handheld that will operate on that. So, but buying this repeater was the same cost as buying just a strict FM repeater. And I remember talking to Eric Meth at the time, V3RMI, and he was saying, I can sell you a straight FM repeater, ICOM, but you might as well get the digital, because he says, I don't know what's going to happen in 5 or 10 years from now. You may have the ability where all the hams are talking on IDAS, right? And if you do, then you've already got a repeater that can do that. So that's what the club decided on, and we purchased it. But it's strictly running in FM analog right now. So it has the ability to do digital, but it's not. It's not like the ICOM D-Star digital repeater, which is amateur based, and we know we have the V3RXR for that. We purchased a TE Systems 200 watt amplifier. We said, the hell with 100 watts. We're going to kick it up to 200 watts and buy a 200 watt. And then we needed to upgrade the isolation. So we went from a 4-bay to a 6-bay, and we went with Sinclair, a commercial Reslock Q2330 duplexer. One of these duplexers to buy brand new are about $2,800. So the equipment that we are putting in, and the amplifier is over $1,000, and the repeater was about almost $2,000. So we have a lot of money tied up in RMI right now with equipment there, but it's all paid for. We don't owe a cent on anything, and it's state of the art. But if you're going to have a good repeater, you need to put in commercial graded, good quality systems, or you're going to end up with crap out there. We got the SCOM 7330 controller. However, the new one does not have an auto patch connectivity to it, but we have a brand new controller. It's not interfaced. We're still using the 7K, but if the 7K should ever kick out or die a slow death, we have a brand new sitting in the box, raring to go, and a new updated controller. It won't do anything different than the old one's doing, but it's brand new. We also bought a Samplex 40 amp power supply for the repeater and the battery. The nice thing about this power supply is it has a slow charger on it. So it will keep the 12 AGM battery afloat and charges it up. And it's also interfaced to the controller. So as some of you have experienced, when we get a power outages, what you will hear is a battery on backup power, right? It makes those announcements. Every time the Morse code ID goes on, battery backup. All right, so you hear those announcements. So if you're sitting at your home or on a handheld or driving a mobile and you hear those announcements going off, you know that the hydro at RMI site is off and we're working off a battery. So it's kind of nice, and that power supply does it. We were able, thanks to Joey, who's hopefully still on here. Joey donated a bunch from the TTC power supplies. Astron 50 amp power supply for the amplifier, and it's operational and working great there today for it. And then last, however, the antenna and the heliax remain. We had the old, and this is back, remember, in 2013. So we put all this new system in effect, and we moved the tower. The CBC gave us a cubby hole over on the side of the building, which we were away from the noisy transmitter, kind of isolated in our own little cubby hole here. They ran the strapping for the grounding, copper strap. That's pretty expensive. It goes all around the building, connected to the standard site there. We have our own plug here. This is a half of a picture of the shop vac that they use for cleaning up the dead flies that sometimes occur. So we are able to keep our area pretty clean with that shop vac next to us. So if we were to take a look and open the cabinet today, this is what you would see. And when we show anybody else from emergency communications, police, fire, ambulance, they come up and say, oh my God, you should see our municipal or our fire department repeater. It doesn't look like anything like this. Like, this is what amateurs do, right? We try and make things look professional, make them look proper and right. And this was one of the reasons why when I asked for money, people said, how much do you need, right? It's because if you put something that looks professional, people are going to come that way with it. So just quickly to go over the components, this is the ICOM repeater here, the one that's running on RMI right now. This is the 200-watt amplifier with dual fans built into it. The SCOM controller, the Samplex 40-amp power supply. We have a distribution panel. This is a neat feature that I didn't mention when this was put in afterwards. But this basically has fuse protection for each individual device that is on the rack, and over and above the online fuses. So we have it double fused. Should we get any surge protection or surge spikes or anything like that. Plus this, if we had internet at RMI, we have the same thing at McLean's Mountain with the RXR and RQQ site. We can go in and look at each individual component and see what voltage and amperage it's doing via the internet and log into that particular box and do it. But unfortunately, we don't have that capabilities. You can see here it's got a little display window, and pushing the button will toggle us through all the areas. We have the 50 amp Astron power supply with dual meters for voltage and amperage. And then we have a rack here with the 12 volt AGM heavy duty cycle battery that's connected in. And we have a spare 20 amp Astron power supply that's sitting here should one of these other supplies blow up and we're at the site, we can easily switch it over for temporary use. that way. Then we have a surge protector line that's plugged into the wall, and then everything that's plugged into this surge protector, and it's a high commercial grade, so that if we get a big lightning strike, or the lightning hits that CBC tower and blows up the transformer or anything, hopefully this will save our equipment. May not, but at least we have it in there as a backup. Then we have the 6 cavity duplexers plus 2 filter cans, one on the receive and one on the transmit side of things. So have a closer look at so you can get a closer look. It's got a microphone built into it, so we can use it as a base. If we're up doing testing on the site, we just plug the microphone in and we can use it. It has further room for expansion to put a UHF component in it, if we should decide to do that. But right now, this is a dual FM and digital repeater. Again, the 200-watt amplifier, we're not running 200 watts, but it has that capability. And again, the SCOM controller, which has a bunch of LEDs that light up in regards to any of the components that we've got connected to it. So again, a look at the rack and what it looks like when it's there with it. So as time went on, we looked at upgrading this. Even though we had a front-end ICOM repeater, what happened was Yaesu came out with a digital marketing program and a new digital repeater called System Fusion. Right, so I started drooling at the mouth, and at that time I had Lorraine and Jim as my vice president, and that Jim wasn't too familiar with System Fusion at the time, and Lorraine is kind of like Lou a bit and said, "You want to spend what? You want to do what?" And that with it. So it's nice to have that balance within an executive of club, because then you don't have somebody crazy like me spending all your money as members of the club, right? But also, if I want to keep the club updated and on the latest technology, you have to look at this stuff too, right? So in April 2015, this 2 years later, Yaesu had a promotional program where you could buy the repeater for only $500. Repeaters were $2,500, $2,500 with taxes, and getting it up here from the States, you were looking at big expenditures. But Yaesu had a beautiful promotional, knowing that if you put our repeater, you're going to have to go out and buy our radios too, right? So they weren't stupid. And who knows how much it cost them to, put that repeater together, maybe a couple of $100. They're still making money on it, not the markup you would, repeater for $1,500 or $2,000. So I went to the club executive, and then we went to the club membership at the time back in 2015, said it's only a $500 expenditure, but we could have System Fusion. Everybody agreed, it was unanimous. So we brought the C4FM System Fusion to Manitoulin Island in the North Shore. We replaced it with the ICOM repeater, still keeping the ICOM in bay, but what we did is we just plugged the antenna into the System Fusion, the DR1, and ran it off the tower. And at that time, RMI was the antennas were just starting to go a little wonky at that time. And it wasn't the greatest, but oh my God, the System Fusion coverage on digital at RMI site. Mobile stations in Sudbury were coming in full quieting. Anywhere in Sudbury, base stations, because digital has that 20 to 30% more coverage than analog. It was amazing. As long as that first packet got in, it worked out extremely well. It enhanced our digital coverage. And I think I mentioned this to you. One day, Jim went driving around the island, and we flipped it back and forth from FM to digital, similar like what TOP has now. And he would come in on FM analog, and it was a little noisy, but I could hear him. As soon as he went to digital, it's like you and I are talking right now. It just crystal clear, no picket fencing, no hash, no noise, nothing. It was just beautiful coverage area that way. So we bought that repeater, we put it in place, and we ran that for quite a while. But the problem with the DR1 repeaters, or the Yaesu repeaters, is the receivers are not commercial grade, they're amateur grade. Okay. Running an amateur grade repeater in a commercial site where 5 feet away, we've got a 10,000 watt CVC transmitter, okay, and other commercial grade applications, the noise floor, and with RMI's antennas starting to fail, we were getting a lot of noise on this repeater because the receiver is so sensitive and so hot. It is amazing. You can key it up with a milliwatt on your handheld 50 miles away and you were getting into the repeater. But if the noise floor went up and there was noise at the site, this thing was garbage. It just, it was just, you know, people were saying, I'm turning off RMI because I can't hear anything. It's so noisy. It's garbage. It's crap. So we, as an executive at that time, we disengaged the system fusion and went back to the ICOM commercial repeater, which has a better front end, but not as sensitive, right? So you're giving up a little bit, sensitivity, selectivity, you know, range coverage, etc. Right? So that's what we did. And as RMI antennas started to deteriorate, as most of you know, prior to putting that new, what a difference when we put that new antenna up, right? You knew how bad the signal was on RMI. So what we did was the new promotional system program came into effect. And then in 2017, they came out with the DR2X, the upgraded with a better front end in it and other features, which I'll explain in a second. In June of 2017, again, I went to Jim and Lorraine at the time, and I said, they have a trade-in. We can take the DR1 that is just sitting in limbo right now, trade it in, and just for an additional $500, we can buy the new DR2X, which is retailing, if you didn't, at $2,500. So Jim thought, yeah, that sounds like a pretty good idea. Again, Lorraine said, you want to spend what? And do whatever. But again, we were able to look, and we did have the funds at the time. And with the club's approval, we went and purchased the DR2X. And the reason for it, the new enhanced features, okay, of the new repeater. The first one is dual frequency operation. And I know Frank is on board. He has one. Eugene's on board. They're running one up in Elliott Lake right now. And these new enhanced features are beautiful. The DRDT. So what it means is it's not just one band. It will do 2 meters and 440 at the same time. But when I say the same time, you can't have 2 repeaters running at the same time. You have a 2 meter one and a 440 one, but what happens is you can only run one of them at a time. 2 can be running up there, but if somebody's talking on 2 meter repeater, the 440 goes dead. If both of them are dead, nobody's talking on it, either one will work. If somebody's talking on 440, then the 2 meter side goes dead. But you have the ability, and you can set up a receiver to remote to go into the repeater to change some of the settings on it. So it's a nice feature to have in a repeater. The second, and this is one of the biggest selling features compared to the, say, the D-Star or the Wires X system, is you can get a module, and we bought the module for our DR2X. It's called an MSRL. It's called Multi-Site Repeater Link, function for easy coverage expansion using an optional module. So what this basically means is that If this is running and we have internet connection, all we need is the Ethernet cable to plug in to the back of the repeater. We don't need an existing computer to run alongside the repeater. All we need is an Ethernet connection with an IP address. We can go in and let's say Elliott Lake with their DR2 repeater had the same function with Ethernet cable connected in there. I call Eugene, ask Eugene, what's your IP number? Type that in. Eugene takes the Manitoulin IP number, types it in. Then we call Frank in Sudbury, say, Frank, what's your IP number? And he types in Manitoulin and Elliott Lake. And now we have all three repeaters connected together without worrying about wires X or any other multifunctional. And everybody's radio, we can have it to come on during nets or have it linked full time. You have that option to bring it up, and you can set your individual radios to be able to use that. And when I heard about this feature, I thought maybe not today, but who knows, 5 years, 10 years down the road, this may happen, and any other digital system fusion repeater. New and improved news station feature for easy sharing of voice and text messaging. Well, you all know now if you own a System Fusion radio, whether it's a handheld, an FT3, or the FTM 400, 300, 100, whatever, FT70, 7250, 3200, whatever radio that you have with System Fusion 991. I mean, I could keep naming the C4FM radios. You have the ability to do text messaging, similar like you do over your cell phones through the System Fusion technology. So it's pretty cool to be able to have that feature. And then, of course, we have the enhanced group monitor feature for easy grouping set up, and Frank mentioned that a couple of weeks back when we were talking about it for the DG IDs or the DP, digital personal or digital group IDs, and everybody can set up the radio. So the new features of System Fusion are amazing. Plus you have the feature of sending pictures over the repeater. If you were around when I did the System Fusion presentation on Zoom, you need one of those little camera microphones and you can send pictures back and forth. So that had it there with it. So the DR2X looks identical to the one, except, and this isn't a great picture, I apologize for that. I took it off the internet, but it's got two systems, transmit, receive. Upper can be UHF and bottom VHF or vice versa, or two VHF or two UHF. It works pretty cool that way. So now we look at the cabinet again. We have installed the DR2X repeater in the cabinet at the top, but it's turned off right now. Brand new, spanking new, but it's in the cabinet. It's all ready to go, but it's turned off because we're still running the ICOM repeater, okay? And the reason when we got changed over, I wanted to make sure we weren't going to have problems because I know the receiver on this Yaesu is pretty sensitive. And I know, Frank, you could probably talk to some of the initial issues you had in setting yours up in Sudbury. Yours is working good now. And that you may have some comments later on. But yeah, you got to be careful in that. And I'm not sure how that's going to perform. But I know now with the repeater, or the new antenna and the Heliax and the flat SWR, we're going to have no issues if we decide to turn this thing on and run that repeater. Okay, and again, everything else is we had to kind of squish things down a bit in the cabinet, but everything's still there. The amplifier, the controller, the power supply, the distribution panel, and the other power supply in the cabinets down below. So we were very lucky when we were looking at the project to get the new thing up and running. We got $9,500 for the Lions Club, $1,000 from the Nemi windmill. As Lou said in her presentation, they donated another $2,000, so total of $3,000 from the windmill farm project on Manitoulin. We got $750 from Nemi, $1,000 from Siganak. Central Manitoulin gave us $1,000, and Billings Township gave us $1,000. So we did very well. That's why we're sitting with a surplus of $8,000 in the bank right now. Now, don't go and tell anybody we've got that extra money, but that's a cushion for us should one of these devices go down or something to that particular nature with it. So what is our action plan as a club and you as a membership? What would you like to see happen? What we had to do, and that at our previous meetings that we talked about, we had to get a tower analysis done, report from the engineer. We had to get installation drawings done from the engineer. We had to purchase the new antenna. We had to purchase new 350 feet of half-inch heliacs. And we had to get all the accessories, the hangers, the grounding kits, the brackets, the clamps, everything that goes all with that. And then we had to hire a rigging crew to do the work. And then unfortunately, we had to get our last quote and set the date. We were all set to go. You gave us the approval at the last AGM, said, Al, go and make this happen. All right, you as the president, go and make this happen from the membership. And then what happened? Pandemic, COVID-19 hit, and everything was put on hold, unfortunately. But through the perseverance of not just myself, but my executive team and everybody involved and the encouragement, we kept running. And thank God, August 10th, 2020 arrived and the riggers arrived. They showed up at the door and said, Al, you've done amazing. We got the final approval from the CBC. Everything's good to go. And the team showed up with their equipment. They had 2 trucks. There was, I think, seven members in the crew. And of course, they took the old antenna down. They quoted 2 days in relation to doing the work, but they did it in 1 day. They were there till about 7:30 at night, but they got it finished and completed. And it was a beautiful day. We were lucky. It was a bit overcast, as you can see, but they went up there and managed to get everything changed over. The old antenna, here's one of the riggers on the tower here. And I think this is another fella. No, maybe not. Anyway, they were both, 2 of them climbed, 3 of them climbed the tower, and 4 of them were on the ground as a ground crew. And they took the old antenna off and put the new one. As you can see, this was at the end of the,
Shiny.
yeah, a nice shiny new antenna at the same location. Different camera angle, mind you, but it was up and operational. And you've been operating off the new system since that happened last August. So now the question comes to the club membership. The new RMI repeater and equipment is all there. It's all set to go. What do you want to do with it now? Where do we want to go? So, having said that, we have various options to consider as a club membership. The first option is leave it as it is now. Everything's running good. The analog works great on RMI. I'm enjoying it. I'm getting into the round tables. I like the 7K controller with the timestamp announcements, all the stuff that's going on the repeater. The nets are great on FM. I can use it on my Alinco. I can use it on my Bullfang. I can get into it with the handheld from Elliott Lake or Sudbury. it's working great. I love it. RMI does well. Everybody's got an FM analog radio, whether it's at your home, car, whatever. Distant stations are getting into it from Sudbury and that with it. So we can just leave it the way it is, and it's doing great. Nothing wrong with it, and carry on. We could switch it out and connect the Yaesu DR2X repeater in operation with C4FM system fusion and FM analog, similar to what V3TOP in Elliott Lake is doing now, running the two systems simultaneously at the same time and have it standalone because we don't have internet up there, right? But if you want to talk on C4FM, if you have a system fusion radio, of course, you just put your AMS button or flip it over to the system fusion, and now you can have a conversation with somebody else on system fusion. With the new antenna and the new amplifier that we have on it and that, I am expecting the coverage off RMI to be amazing, right? But if you have a radio that doesn't have C4FM, you can still use it, but now we have to put PL tones on it. Because if we don't do that, and you're driving down the highway and say Rusty and I want to talk to one another on C4FM, and you're listening on your FM, you're going to hear, and you're going to be sitting there going, what the hell is wrong with RMI? Why is there noise going off it? Why can I not hear what's going on? And all I hear all day long is and that drives a lot of people nuts. I've done a lot of research. I've went to other clubs. This is why I don't think you hear too many people on TOP using C4FM except for a dedicated net every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. So I mean, we can do that and set that up, but with taking that out of play, we're going to lose the controller. Now, some of you may like the controller. Some of you may think it's redundant. Who needs to hear? Hello and welcome to the Manitoulin Island repeater, V3RMI. All those different announcements and the timestamp. Good afternoon. It's 12:15 p.m. If you don't want to hear all that stuff and the bells and whistles and everything else that gives RMI the I don't know, personality, maybe, if you want to call it that, then unfortunately the Yaesu will run standalone and you will hear either a CW announcement, right, V3RMI going off every so often, or VE3RMI, and that's how it sounds on the Yaesu repeater. Now, we eventually can interface the SCOM controller, but as Eugene will tell you, it creates some other issues too. And it's not as easy as it sounds, because if an announcement goes off in FM and you're on digital, it'll automatically switch your radio there. So, I mean, there are some plans, but at the end, I said we could do a trial period to see what C4FM is going to sound like. Put it up for a month and see what people think. And then come back, do a Zoom meeting and say, you know what, Al, I hate it, or Al, I love it. Don't change it. It's great,
Al,
Yes.
is there a way to throw money at it to make this go away?
We already spent money, Janice. How
Well,
much more do you want to spend at it?
Well, to make it all work.
Okay, well, hang on. I haven't got to the finish of, I'm only at number 2 here. Wait till you get to 1,647. You'll be amazed, but that's at 11 o'clock tonight. So
Yeah,
yeah.
I'm gonna go to bed now.
All right. Okay. We could look at getting internet at the VE3RMI site. There are various options. Rusty and I can go back up and put the bridge in, knock everybody else's internet out. Or we can see about professionally getting it done from the Plains Mountain, get it over there. Or we could look at getting another internet provider, a hub. Again, you saw our financial report. We only have $200 left over from our thing, it could be very difficult. We could look at putting Starlink in there and getting internet at the site, but that's going to cost additional money. So getting internet at the CBC site is a huge problem. Okay, if we eventually lose the Maclean's Mountain, which will happen, I will come to you or talk to you, you know, in a couple of years from now, and say, guess what? I just got the call from the people that the tower's coming down. We got to remove all our equipment off Maclean's Mountain site, right? Which means we lose our D-Star, we lose our IRLP, we lose our, you know, other connections up there, Asterix, DMR, all the other systems that the club has, if we lose that site. So now we're going to have to look at RMI. We can take the money we spend at that site, turn it over to RMI, put internet in there, and then put a couple of systems in there. So we leave the ICOM repeater, this is item 4, as is, and install the Yaesu repeater as a C4 FM repeater, additional repeater, on a different frequency, on 2 meters, using the same antenna on RMI, okay? It requires a multi-coupler, and we've talked about this before. John, VA3RQ from Toronto, will be able to build this one. It's not going to cost that much more money, but we can set it up so that we have the 2 repeaters in the cabinet running off the same antenna and a multi-couple system. Now, the negative thing about doing that is you're going to get a reduction in coverage, okay, with both the output and the receive, because you're running 2 systems off the same antenna. So that means the coverage that RMI is giving you now, where you can sit with your handheld on your desk in Elliott Lake or in Sudbury, you're not going to be able to do that anymore. Right? You're not going to be able, you're going to have to crank up your antennas. You're going to have to crank up the power to get into RMI or the C4 FM. But Manitoulin, North Shore will have excellent coverage on both systems, but our extended range will definitely decrease as a result of this. But it's a possibility where now we have those 2 systems running now. The other thing to put in place, and it's not being used right now, is we have a C4 FM repeater on Manitoulin operational. It's on 44250. It's not in the C4 FM, but I ran it for 3 weeks on C4 FM on the island. Nobody got on it. We ran nets on it every Wednesday night, except for me and maybe 1 or 2 others. Nobody seemed to want to use it. So I don't know. It's up to you people. Like I'll be glad to do whatever you throw me. I'm just throwing out ideas here. And last, once the internet is established at RMI, okay, if we do decide to go that route, then we can do different things with RMI the way it's standing now in FM analog. We could connect IRLP to it so that people within the club that don't live on Manitoulin, Maureen in Wyerton, or Dave and Krista in Indiana, or the guys in Toronto, or wherever you are, Rob out in Pembroke, or whoever that want to check into our Thursday night and Sunday morning nets can do it right on the repeater with
asterisk also.
Or, well,
Yep.
asterisks. I put them all up there, Rusty. IRLP, Echolink, or asterisks. Or run them all 3, right? We have that ability to do so, right? And turn RMI into one of those repeaters where now you can get everybody connecting and leave, you know.
During net times only, or net time, or
Yeah,
times of emergency,
absolutely.
or whatever, right?
Absolutely.
Not a full-time connection.
So, last but not least, I'm open to suggestions. Any ideas, suggestions that you all have? So, is there any feedback? Any questions? suggestions or comments? I've thrown out a few ideas. What would you, as a club membership, like to see?
I have a suggestion.
Go ahead,
I have a-
Rusty. You're
And I have
okay.
a question.
Okay, you're next on thing. So Rusty, go ahead. You're on.
Yeah, so just the suggestion is, we hold off on the multi-coupling, of course, until we have to do it. Like when we lose McLean's Mountain, we're not really going to have too much of a choice unless we, somebody comes up with a club location or something like that. So hold off on the multi-coupling for now, for sure. As far as that goes, that's all I got.
Okay, thank you. Claude.
I'm thinking to be proactive instead of reactive in what Rusty's saying. We have to think about losing McLean. And if we lose McLean, we have to be ready to react or act to keep our D-Star going. And we should really consider being proactive with the D-Star, number one. And what he's saying about the coupler, I agree with that.
Okay. All right. Just to add, and I'm going to open it up to further questions. Absolutely. Now, what has happened is D-Star have just developed a brand new. Here I go spending money again. I'm not spending it, Lou, so don't get. I know. I see your finger. Okay. ICOM have just come out with a brand new D-Star repeater that works like the System Fusion repeater. It does both D-Star and FM at the same time. Okay, so there is a possibility that should we lose McLean Mountains and RXR comes down, if the club looks at upgrading or selling off some of the stuff that we have now, we could update to that new repeater. We have all the other stuff with it and make RMI an FM and RXR or FM and D-Star repeater. So that is an option. I didn't put it in my list, Claude, but I thank you for bringing
Okay,
that.
now with that option,
Point.
if we do make that move,
Yep.
at that point in time, we can get the coupler and tie in C4FM.
Well, we wouldn't need, well, yes, you could do that too. Absolutely. And that would give us System Fusion and with internet at the RMI.
That's what I'm
because
saying.
We're not paying
Because we,
for
then
it.
we have to move. We have to move, and so if we're going to move our D-Star, we might as well move, get the internet set up in preparation for that move. And with that being done, well, it'll also C4FM. It'll work for CFM also.
Then you'll lose coverage still of RMI.
A little bit, we don't know how, but output power, we could, if we, if it was transmit distance, we can up the output power
You can compensate.
maybe mess around with
Like we have a 200 amp watt amplifier there that we're only using 100. So if the worst gets the worst, you can always give her a little kick.
and a little preamp maybe. So
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, there are options and we have experts that can help us out.
and we won't wait till the last. We're going to have some heads up before this happens.
Oh, absolutely.
They're not just gonna kick
Definitely.
us out on the
But I'm
curb.
just saying it's we've had the word. We know where we're going to have to move. So it's just being proactive, not waiting till oh geez, now we got to move. What are we going to do? Like that new ASU receiver repeater. Is that like $3,000 or is it less?
You mean the new Icon?
New
Yeah.
icon.
Yeah,
You're
the
looking
new
about,
icon.
yeah, you're looking about 1,500 to 2,000.
Maybe they'll
Okay,
have a
it's-
promotion on it like Yesu did.
Yeah.
So,
So it's not a dire deal or do this for
It hasn't been
$1,500.
it hasn't been produced yet.
Yeah.
So they're still waiting to put it on. It's like everything else with COVID-19. I do not see that other tower going down right now because it's got a doctor's paging system and Northern Ontario paging for medical on it. They're not going to take that down anytime soon. And the new radio systems are not projected until 2000 and at least earliest 23 or 2025. So I think we've got another 2 to 5 years okay on there. But I agree with you, Claude. We need to project for the future.
Another idea,
Yes, go ahead, Eugene.
if we went to Fusion for a while there, I wonder if there's any type of remote controller that could be used to get those everything that the existing controller does, like maybe computer driven, but from a house with all the announcements and that.
Well, that's quite possible. I know with the existing RXR repeater, if you notice every hour on the hour, we have a voice announcement that comes on it saying, you know, this is the Manitoulin and North Shore D-Star repeater, V3RXR. So, I mean, there is a possibility within the computer programming to be able to do that. So, yeah, I mean, technology is moving so fast and furious. It's available. So,
Okay, a couple of questions, Al.
yes, please go ahead, Joey.
Can the club sustain an internet monthly account to the CBC building? Can we sustain that financially on a monthly subscription?
That's a good question.
But I asked it, Rusty.
Yeah. So we have to. So what we would have to do is we'd have to investigate the cost of either putting a bridge from using the existing internet account that we have at McLean's Mountain and bridging it over to the CBC so that we just add.
Which isn't going to be, well, actually, no, that internet. So yeah, if we did lose McLean's Mountain site.
If we lost McLean's Mountain, we just switch it to CBC.
Absolutely,
and
yeah.
Same price.
Yep. There you go. Yep.
Okay, so that answers that. But the question is, what can the club sustain easier? Can it sustain a monthly subscription to the internet at the CBC with McLean's Mountain still going? Or I'm going to assume the bridge is going to be a one-time cost and then we paid for it up front when we put it together. Is that right?
Well, yeah, like the bridging stuff through Ken. I don't know if Ken's still on here.
Actually, see, we've already got what it takes.
We've got the equipment.
Yeah, we've already got the. If we lose McLean's Mountain, then the the bridge that side right now is just going to be moved to the CBC, and it's solved. But if we want to have the internet in both places, then we might have a temporary expense for the next 2, 3 or 5 years until we get kicked out of McLean's or whatever, so.
Okay, so are we going to have to spend more money for a bridge from McLean's to CBC if we were to put that together down?
Well,
Yeah,
probably.
Kind of. Yeah.
Because I remember the story you guys told me about how you tried the first bridge and you wiped out all
only half the island.
I was impressed with that, as a matter of fact. Something I would do. But okay, so that equipment that we were using then, we couldn't redeploy now to get a bridge working to CBC. Is that correct?
No, it would take an additional piece of equipment. Yeah, to have it in both places.
Doing just a little bit of research there, questioning Google by saying average internet prices on Manitoulin Island is $30 a month. Is that sustainable? Do people actually offer, do ISPs offer that for $30 a month?
So if we were actually to go with, if we wanted the internet at the CBC, we could even go with a turbo hub with a flex plan, something called a flex plan. It could be as low as $10 a month. And it's based on your usage. It could be between 10 and $100 a month if you use 10 gigs worth of data a month or something. But that's not going to happen. That's not, we're not going to use anywhere near that kind of data.
We use one on the Collingwood site for weather radio. It's a turbo hub into Rogers, and it's exactly that way. If the amount of data we use is bridged based on usage. Would that be an easier way to do it? That way we don't have to worry about bridging or anything and just stick a stick in a box.
Well, there you go. And I mean, again, if we did have to do that, we might have a one-time expense like for buying the turbo hub.
Right.
If you buy it outright, you're not tied into a contract. And last I looked, they were between $300 and $400 to buy the turbo hub. And that would be a one-time expense. And then we could use that later someplace, say Field Day or or something like, and it would only cost us $10 a month to have it because it would have no usage on it or whatever, or cancel the contract until we need it again.
Okay, dumb idea time. Anybody want to borrow my USB to dial-up modem? Can we use that phone line in the building?
No,
Al?
thank you. No, 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 no. I hate that sound.
Okay, so
Al, you need to make a modem, a fax machine noise so we know what we're missing. That's
So
it. I don't miss that at all, man.
we've established that the club can sustain internet service one way or the other to the CBC. Is that correct?
Yeah, and even if it only cost us $10 a month or whatever, you know, like $10 to $20 a month or something, reasonably speaking, maybe $20 a month to have it in both spots, an additional 20 for a few years anyway.
And
what was the extra equipment going to cost to do that?
Well, it's as far as if you did go with a turbo hub, you would be buying the turbo hub, which would be between $300 and $400. And like
Rusty?
I said, yes.
The 3BK here. I have a turbo hub, and
gonna
also
say,
I got a Bell one as well that I'm not using. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. Now there's a thought too. A beg, borrow, or steal one, you know, for a few years, and then it would just cost us the data plan, you know.
Yeah,
Like
you're welcome to use it.
Well, thank you, Bill.
Okay,
I'm
so
just curious. How old is it, Bill? How old is the turbo hub? Just curious.
Oh, it's an older one, but I do have an let's see, less than 5-year-old Bell one. The only trouble with the Bell one is you have to reset the doggone thing. You have to go and manually push the button when the power goes off. However, that's a newer one. That'll work on the higher speed.
A remote controlled, RF controlled switch or something. Up there,
Yeah, it could be done that way. Yeah, but that's the only disadvantage
output of the
I found with
controller.
that.
Output of the repeater controller. Have it toggle the little relay and shut the sucker off.
Yeah, you can turn it on and then turn it. Yeah, that way. That would do.
So I'm quite confident that go ahead.
I was just saying, have it plugged into a timer that goes off every night at 4 o'clock for 5 minutes or something like that.
There you go too. Yeah, that's the.
So I mean, there's different ways of getting around it. Again, just to reiterate what Lou presented earlier, we'd have to examine all this for the club expenses, because right now we're playing with $200 a year, okay, roughly, over and above what we bring in and pull out, and that's providing everybody pays their membership dues, right?
Al,
Yeah.
Bob
Yes.
here. You've got a DR2X repeater that's currently not being used. It
Right.
costs you about $1,000, right?
Right.
500 plus another 500. Is Yaesu still offering the $500 trade-in option for that repeater?
No.
So conceivably, it might be worth a lot more than $1,000 to somebody else wanting to go C4FM. And I'm sensing that the club
right now for $700.
I'm sensing, guys, that the club is more interested in D-Star and FM operations than they are in C4FM and FM operations. Because how many of the club members have C4FM radios? Let's take a hard look at this. Okay.
Right now, we don't have a C4FM repeater going. We've got a D-Star repeater going. So, of course, there's going to be more activity on D-Star now.
I think everyone's listening, Bob, but I don't necessarily agree with you, what you said there.
Do we have any machines that'll get us IRLP, Echolink, and All-Star to CBC? Do we have the equipment to do that?
Yes.
Yes. All we need is the internet.
All we need is the internet there.
Correct.
So we bring internet to CBC regardless of how we get it there, hopefully by a bridge or hopefully the cheapest way possible. We don't have to pay anything extra to get IRLP, Echolink, or Asterisk, or any of those digital systems to that machine by spending anything extra. It's there. We can make it work that way.
Mm-hmm.
If C4FM, looking at the LSR guys down here, it's not that popular. It's not that busy. More people like using C4FM through their laptops than they do RF. To me, it would, this member's opinion would be get the internet to the site and bring in IRLP, Echolink, and Asterisk to the site, because once you got internet there, you've got how many different modes you can put over the air. right?
A couple of comments on.
And on top of that, the modes are available.
Yep. Okay, Ken. Yes, glad you're
So
still here. Go
first
ahead.
question now is, do you have permission to put more equipment at the CBC site?
We have permission to put what we need to in one cabinet.
So you're going to have to fit whatever it is you're going to put there into that cabinet that is
That is
existing, right?
correct. That
Okay.
is correct.
So that's going to severely limit what you can actually put in. That's problem number one. Problem number two, or comment number two is that coming from the Sudbury area, I can tell you that more repeaters are not necessarily better. Okay, if you got a couple of good working machines, with the amount of population we have, that's all you're ever going to need. Don't panic about putting up a new machine, a new mode, or anything else. Just my suggestion. If you want to, dabble with some of the linking and stuff like that, that's probably the better way to expand your user base than anything else. But of course, you can see today that there's a whole lot of different opinions here. So maybe the right answer is to maybe put together a questionnaire or a poll. Let's see what direction you want to go, and then maybe we can, decide between 2 or 3 options in that direction. What's the, most inexpensive or best way to go, or whatever you want to do. The other thing I wanted to comment on is if you have to leave the McLean's Mountain site sooner or later anyway, we can look at moving what's necessary sooner than later. So start by moving the internet. We drop it at one place, put it at the other place, then we don't have to worry about more equipment. You're paying the same price. There's no difference. And we'll move over what equipment we can and we should and we need to, a piece at a time. It's like you said, your limited space there. You're gonna have
the other issue that we do have is we're limited on an antenna. We have
that.
no
That was the next thing.
VHF,
You're going to have to start multi-coupling or doing other things, and it's going to change a
Correct.
bunch of stuff. So there's
Correct.
no cost to any option here. It's going to be, let's find the right option with what the club wants to do, and then look at it carefully and step in that direction slowly.
Absolutely, and this is why this is a great forum, because I'm getting a lot of ideas. Now, I'm not going to keep you all afternoon here, but at least I've got the juices flowing and, people thinking, and that's exactly what I wanted to do with this. We're not in an urgency. We don't have to do this tomorrow. And that with it, we've got the repeater running at optimal. I think what the main thing that I hear from most of the membership is that even though we've got D-Star, we've got the Monday night D-Star net, which is certainly very popular. We're getting over 30 check-ins on the D-Star, and a lot of you that are on board here are coming in that way. We have the Thursday night and Sunday night Procom net on Asterix, but not too many people are using the Asterix Simplex node here on the island. I know a few of you are. IRLP has been on the UHF repeater for 10 years now, and I don't think I ever hear anybody using except for Mike KPP and his brother OLP over in Sudbury linking up and using it that way.
Al?
Yes.
V3BK here. You should turn it on Wednesday for the Cross Canada IRLP net. You may stir up some customers.
Right. Well, and one of the other issues is people that want to link back to Manitoulin Island. People aren't listening on RXR D-Star, and they're not listening on RQQ 444.300, but everybody's glued to RMI.
RMI, yeah.
So if we were to put IRLP or Asterix or Echolink, look at Echolink on SRG in Sudbury. If we were to put that on RMI, then everybody on this network here could probably find either an IRLP link, an Asterix link, or an Echolink connection in your own community, or pick up your cell phone, connect that way, and now check into RMI when you want. And
One question now.
Manitoulin. Yes.
The APRS capability at McLean's Mountain, is that off a separate antenna or is that coupled into the main antenna?
It's off a separate antenna off a Diamond X50 on the top of the fence, 4.5 feet, 5 feet off the ground.
Would we be able to move that to CBC somehow?
Absolutely. But we'd have to multi-couple it.
Yeah,
Or
that's the only downside to the CBC site is pretty much no more antennas. I'm sure we could get by with a that outdoor access point to get internet, or like I said, if we considered the turbo hub, we wouldn't have to worry about any outdoor equipment.
But to get EPRS at CBC would either be a separate antenna off the fence, which we can't do, or
Well, I
multi-coupled
talked
into
to
the main
John
antenna.
about that. We have the cans there all ready to go on 144.39.
We do.
Just a matter of plugging it in. But multi-coupling RMI to
Will cost coverage.
144.39.
Performance hit. So
Okay, thanks.
How many people are actually interested in getting into that RMI? Like I live, well, you know, in Wyerton, and I can't reach it. So
you would be able to then, as long as you can get to, you know, if you can, hey, if you've got an IRLP machine or an Asterisk machine or anything around you, or a hotspot at your house, you know.
not with my hotspot, it's less than one. No, I thought like Echolink or something like that. Then there's a lot of people that check into the Echolink down here for their.
Do you have an Echolink machine around you?
There's one in Owen Sound.
Can you hit it?
I can hit it, yes.
Okay, well then, you know, I mean, Echolink is definitely I think the ladies are doing it on your nets anyway, right? That's how you're doing the nets already?
I go into
so Lou will be very well versed in that. She'll be our technical advisor on that.
Yeah, I go in through Lou on Echolink.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's like that. Like we now have connections, you know, on RXR, but the main thing is people want to connect to RMI, right? So that's our issue anyway. All right, well, we have a few other items that we need to get to. So I'm going to leave it as such now. If anybody has any, I like your suggestion, Ken, with maybe a survey. Maybe we can do one of these survey monkey things and send it out to the club membership and get a thing. I'm sorry, Gary, I didn't see you. Please come ahead.
Yeah, sorry guys. I know a lot of technology's been raised here, but I'm thinking in a simple way. Obviously, we want to have one real good site compared to two lousier sites, if I can use that nomenclature. But my concern is, how would we get internet to the CBC? Would it be through copper wire? Would it be through fiber optic or through a radio?
It's going to be the cellular network or a wireless link to the same wireless link that we're already using, or it's going to be the cellular network.
You're muted, Gary.
I shouldn't be muted.
Okay, now you're good.
Am I mute? Yeah, okay, yeah, I'm holding down the space bar here. Anyway, the copper wire is a big concern for me. I mean, I have very little faith in the ability of the telephone companies, you know, and getting up to that site. So radio is really the only way.
It won't be coming that way for sure. Positively, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, that was my concern.
Yeah. No, good point for sure.
Rusty, you said that the CBC building's already got CBC intranet there, right?
Yes, yeah. Al and I got all excited whenever we saw the new hardware up there, and we actually tried to plug it into it and couldn't go anywhere. And then Al made a phone call, and nope, it's just for connecting their sites remotely. Yeah, it's not
right. And that's copper into the building, not
no,
transmitter
I'm not
substation.
sure. No, I think it's a dish. It's some kind of a
dish on the back of the building.
Satellite dish. Yeah, it's
it's part of, it's off the satellite system.
Yeah, we got all excited when we saw it too, but we got our feelings hurt.
Okay, thanks.
Like it wouldn't, you know, I mean, even if we look down the road, if it was affordability wise, even one of these, and it's coming, it eventually is coming to Manitoulin. I don't know how long it's going to be. I know all our municipalities are looking at bringing broadband in some sort, whether wireless or connectivity through various tower sites and through fiber and whatever, because that's what the public is yelling for right now. They want remote activity. And as Elon Musk's Starlink goes on, I mean, that seems to work fairly well. Put one of the dishes up at the tower site and bang.
Yeah, it's fantastic, but you know, $129 a month for the club is a little steep.
It's expensive right now.
Right now, Rusty's the only one that can afford that. So
yeah. But also, you know, what's his name? We got two of the richest men in the world competing for satellite-based internet. You know, Jeff Bezos is throwing his hat in the ring, and supposedly by the end of the year, he's going to have something up and going, you know. But Elon, I got faith in Elon because he not only does he talk the talk, but he walks the walk. You know, he knows what he's talking about. You know, he knows, like his SpaceX stuff, he knows every nut, every bolt, everything that's going on with that. So
Yeah, but that's $120 a month.
Yep.
exactly, that's right. Yeah, yeah. And we, you know, the club could not. Yeah, that's
That's
not
too, we
no,
can't
doable.
support that.
Someone has to get Elon interested in ham radio.
Hey, there, yeah,
Get a free, get a
yeah.
freebie.
Can we bridge Rusty to CBC?
Almost, probably, very close.
Are you serious?
No. The
Well,
problem is
jokingly.
getting, like, even to link with the bridge from CBC to McLean's Mountain was an issue, because if we put any exterior stuff on that tower and they find out that we put a hidden bridge link or something like that, then we're
We'd be out of there. We'd be out
We're
of
to
there.
kick our asses out of there so
to the
bloody
curb.
quick.
Yeah.
And if we wanted to do something, then I got to hire another engineer at
Just don't put it on the
35,
tower.
4,000.
Don't put it on the tower. Holy crap! No. So a better option might be to consider. You know, like if we did get kicked out of McLean's Mountain, then we would no longer be paying that internet bill, and I'm sure we could afford 20 or you know $20 a month or whatever for a turbo hub. So.
Yeah, so we'll have to investigate that. But I've written down a lot of your comments. We'll have it recorded in the minutes. And this is something that we could probably do for a Zoom get together and further discussion on it, because we could be here till midnight. But I'm glad that you did give some of your feedback with it. There's no hurry to change anything over. I mean, if you guys wanted to test out C4FM and what the other repeater sounds like for a week or 2 weeks, Rusty and I can run up and flip that the C4FM repeater
That would be
on.
a really good idea, and then everyone would really know what they were dealing with.
Exactly. So maybe we'll look at doing that for sure within the next couple of weeks, and we'll make announcements to let that know. And then once you're there and going, we still have RMI. Like, my intention, as long as I'm your president, I'm going to keep the Thursday night, Sunday morning nets to FM analog, and the round tables in the morning to FM analog. Okay, we're never going to get rid of that.
Or political promises.
Or all right, so I want to thank everyone. That's a little bit of update on RMI. We're going to move on here on our agenda because we do have a few more items to discuss.